How could an 18-foot-tall animal be disappearing from Africa without most of the world even noticing? Right now, one of the planet's most iconic creatures is fighting for survival. Its numbers have collapsed, entire populations have vanished, and scientists are racing against time to prevent a silent extinction. But here's the shocking part. For years, almost nobody realized it was happening. Welcome to Animals World, the channel where we explore the most fascinating stories from the animal kingdom. If you love wildlife, nature, and incredible true stories from around the world, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We upload new videos every week, bringing you closer to the wonders of our planet. Now, let's discover the extraordinary story of the giraffe and the mission that could save it from disappearing forever. When people think about endangered animals in Africa, they usually think of elephants, rhinos, or lions. But there's another giant quietly vanishing from the wild: the giraffe. Over the last 20 years, Africa's giraffe population has dropped by nearly 40%. Today, only around 90,000 giraffes remain in the wild. That's fewer than many people realize, and in some African countries, giraffes have already disappeared completely. The most surprising part? For years, scientists believed giraffes were doing just fine. They're tall, easy to spot, and often seen in documentaries and zoos around the world. Because of that, many assumed their numbers were stable. They weren't. Conservation scientist Julian Fennessy dedicated his life to understanding what was really happening. Traveling across some of the most remote regions of Africa, he collected DNA samples from giraffe populations to answer a question that could change everything. Are all giraffes actually the same species? What he discovered shocked the scientific community. Instead of a single species with a few subspecies, genetic evidence suggested that giraffes may actually belong to several distinct species. That means some groups are far rarer and more endangered than anyone previously thought. And one of those groups was facing a major threat in Uganda. In Murchison Falls National Park, home to one of the last strongholds of Rothschild's giraffes, a new danger was emerging. Beneath the ground where these animals lived lay vast oil reserves. Plans for drilling were moving forward, putting an already fragile population at risk. Conservationists knew they couldn't wait. Their solution was bold: move the giraffes. Not a few miles down the road, across the Nile River. An operation like this had never been attempted on such a scale. Wildlife veterinarians, rangers, and conservation experts came together from across Uganda to carry out one of the most ambitious giraffe relocation missions ever attempted. Capturing a giraffe isn't as easy as it sounds. These animals can grow over 18 feet tall and weigh more than 2,500 pounds. Their unique anatomy makes them extremely vulnerable during transport. One mistake could be fatal. Every movement had to be carefully planned. Teams spent weeks training. Special transport vehicles were prepared. Veterinarians monitored every animal's health. The goal was simple: get every giraffe safely to a new home. After hours of travel through rough terrain, the convoy reached its greatest challenge: the Nile River. The same river that flows thousands of miles across Africa now stood between these giraffes and their future. Then something extraordinary happened. One by one, the giant animals crossed the Nile aboard a ferry. A sight so unusual that even experienced conservationists could hardly believe what they were seeing. If anything had gone wrong at that moment, years of work could have been lost. But it didn't. The giraffes arrived safely.
Soon after, the doors of the transport trucks opened and the animals stepped into a land where giraffes had never roamed before. For the conservation team, it was an emotional moment. Years of dedication, sacrifice, and hard work had finally paid off. But this wasn't the end of the story. GPS tracking later revealed that the relocated giraffes were thriving. They explored hundreds of miles of new territory and adapted successfully to their environment. Even more importantly, the new population created a safety net for the species. If one group faced disaster, another could survive. It's a powerful reminder that conservation isn't just about protecting animals, it's about taking action before it's too late. Because sometimes saving a species begins with a single question and the courage to do something about the answer. If these efforts continue, future generations may still have the chance to see wild giraffes roaming Africa's landscapes, not just in photographs, documentaries, or zoos. And that's a future worth fighting for. But to truly understand why this mission matters, we need to look beyond the dramatic rescue itself. Because the story of giraffes is actually the story of how an entire species can disappear almost unnoticed. Unlike elephants, whose decline has made international headlines for decades, giraffes have suffered what conservationists call a silent extinction. Their numbers were falling year after year, but few people paid attention. Part of the reason is simple. Giraffes don't usually make the news. They aren't known for attacking people. They aren't involved in conflicts with farmers on the same scale as elephants. And because they are so tall and visible, people naturally assume there must be plenty of them. But appearances can be deceiving. Imagine walking through a forest and seeing 10 trees. You might assume the forest is healthy. What you don't see are the thousands that have already disappeared. The same thing has happened with giraffes. Across Africa, human populations continue to grow rapidly. Roads expand, cities spread, farmland pushes deeper into wilderness areas. Piece by piece, the vast landscapes giraffes once called home are being fragmented into smaller and smaller islands of habitat. And when animal populations become isolated, new problems begin to emerge. Genetic diversity decreases, breeding opportunities become limited, disease can spread more easily, and a single disaster can wipe out an entire population. This is exactly why Julian's DNA research became so important. For decades, scientists grouped giraffes together as one species, but genetic evidence revealed a much more complicated picture. Different giraffe populations had been evolving separately for hundreds of thousands of years. Some were more genetically distinct from each other than brown bears are from polar bears. That realization changed everything, because if several unique giraffe species exist instead of just one, then some of those species are much closer to extinction than anyone imagined. Suddenly, conservation efforts became even more urgent. You can't protect what you don't fully understand. And you certainly can't save a species if you don't even know it exists. For Julian and his team, every DNA sample represented more than scientific data. It represented a chance to identify vulnerable populations, a chance to convince governments to act, and perhaps most importantly, a chance to buy time. Time is the one thing conservationists never seem to have enough of. Every year that passes brings new challenges. Climate change is altering rainfall patterns across Africa. Longer droughts place additional pressure on wildlife. Vegetation changes, water sources shrink, competition for resources increases. For animals as large as giraffes, survival depends on access to enormous areas of suitable habitat. And when those habitats disappear, there is nowhere else to go. That is why the relocation project in Uganda became so significant. It wasn't simply moving animals from one location to another. It was creating insurance for the future. Conservation experts often compare wildlife populations to investments. No smart investor puts all their money in a single place. Likewise, no conservation program should depend on a single population. If disease, poaching, natural disasters, or industrial development affect one area, another population may survive. This strategy has helped save species around the world, and now it could help save giraffes too. Yet moving giraffes is unlike moving almost any other animal. Their bodies are masterpieces of evolution. Everything about them is extraordinary. Their hearts can weigh more than 20 pounds. Their blood pressure is among the highest found in mammals. Special valves in their blood vessels prevent blood from rushing to their brains when they lower their heads to drink. Even their tongues are remarkable. A giraffe's tongue can grow up to 20 inches long and is dark in colour, helping protect it from sunburn during long hours of feeding. Every feature has evolved to help them survive in some of Africa's harshest environments. But these same adaptations make relocation incredibly challenging. Stress can be dangerous. Falls can be dangerous. Even transportation itself can be dangerous. That's why every member of the team carried enormous responsibility. A single mistake could undo months of planning. Yet, despite the risks, the mission succeeded, and success breeds hope. Today, the relocated giraffes continue exploring their new territory. Satellite tracking collars allow researchers to monitor their movements in real time. Every location update tells a story of adaptation, a story of survival, a story of resilience. Some individuals have travelled hundreds of miles since their release. Others have established home ranges and settled into familiar routines. The most encouraging sign of all will come when new calves are born. Because in conservation, birth is the ultimate measure of success. It means animals are not merely surviving, they are thriving. They are building a future. And that future matters far beyond giraffes themselves. Healthy giraffe populations contribute to healthy ecosystems. As they browse leaves from tall trees, they influence vegetation growth. Their feeding habits shape habitats used by countless other species. Seeds pass through their digestive systems and are dispersed across vast distances. In ways both visible and invisible, giraffes help maintain the balance of African landscapes. Remove them, and entire ecosystems begin to change. This is why conservation is never just about one species. Everything is connected. The survival of giraffes affects birds, it affects insects, it affects plants, it affects predators, and ultimately it affects people. Because the natural world is not separate from humanity. It is the foundation upon which humanity depends. The story of these giraffes reminds us of something powerful. Extinction is not always dramatic. Sometimes it happens quietly, slowly, almost invisibly, until one day we realize what has been lost. But this story also reminds us of something else. Decline is not inevitable. When people come together with determination, science, and a clear purpose, extraordinary things can happen. Animals can be protected, habitats can be restored, species can recover, and hope can become reality. For Julian, Steph, and the countless conservationists working across Africa, the mission continues. There are still populations to monitor, still habitats to protect, still challenges to overcome. But there is now proof that their efforts can make a difference. Proof standing nearly 18 feet tall and walking proudly across the African savannah. The giraffe's future has not yet been written, and perhaps that is the most inspiring part of all. Because as long as there are people willing to fight for these gentle giants, the story is far from over.